Adam Robinson went from completely ignoring LinkedIn as a way to market his SaaS products to using it to generate a combined $24 million in annual recurring revenue across his two companies. And he's been able to crack that revenue mark in only about 3 years after taking LinkedIn seriously. The craziest part is he took his new company from $0 to $3 million in ARR in just 7 months off the back of LinkedIn. And in the process, built arguably one of the strongest personal brands on the platform. But you and I both know that most founders aren't having this level of success on LinkedIn. So what gives? Well, just like Adam before he realized the potential of LinkedIn, they don't believe in the power of it because they don't understand what the platform is actually capable of, which is exactly why I'm making this video today. I want to show you how Adam was able to build an 8-figure startup with LinkedIn, break his success down into 4 simple pillars, and lay out exactly what you need to do to replicate his success for yourself. And the first pillar of Adam's success with LinkedIn is quite similar to the idea of product market fit, which I'm sure you've heard of plenty of times, but I doubt you've heard of content market fit. And sadly, this is something I see across a lot of founders. Well, most of them aren't even posting content in the first place, but even the ones that are don't have alignment between the content they're posting and the product or service they're providing. To be honest, I don't know where a lot of this bad advice comes from. It might be social media gurus and coaches that are really just over-indexing on vanity metrics and pumping up your follower count without worrying about revenue. But you have to make sure that your content is aligned with your product. And this is actually something that Adam struggled with back when he first started posting. I remember sitting down with him in an office and walking him through the power of LinkedIn and why he needed to start posting. So he did, but what we found early on was there wasn't much content market fit. His first product, retention.com, was selling into direct-to-consumer founders, but Adam didn't have experience as a direct-to-consumer founder. He's a SaaS guy. He bootstrapped a software company before. So because he had no experience, he couldn't really put himself in their shoes, and that showed in the content. But what he did have was a ton of experience in SaaS. He scaled his previous startup, Robly, to an 8-figure exit, and now was building retention.com. At the time of starting the post on LinkedIn, they were doing around 10 to 12 million in annual recurring revenue. So he had quite a track record. So naturally, he was attracting a ton of SaaS founders from his content on LinkedIn because they wanted to see what he was doing. And this is great, except for the fact that retention.com wasn't selling into those people. So there was a clear misalignment between the content he was producing and the people that he wanted to attract. So there wasn't content market fit. So fast forward a bit and he's building his next company, RB2B, which is pretty much the B2B version of retention.com. The product pretty much allows you to automatically gather contact info from anyone who visits your site. So if someone visits my agency site, I can see what their LinkedIn profile is, so I can then go do outreach to them. But what you'll notice is that now his content and his expertise as a founder start to overlap and match with what his ICP is actually looking for. So because he's no longer just selling into direct-to-consumer founders, he's selling into SaaS founders, SaaS marketers, go-to-market folks. The stories and expertise and his opinions that he's developed over years in the SaaS space now can translate into content that ICP actually cares about. And it becomes easier and easier to keep coming up with relevant ideas that pop off on LinkedIn because you're just pulling from your experiences. And when you have that overlap between your experience and what your ICP cares about, you can just take it to the moon. It's kind of like when you have product market fit with your product. Everything just gets easier. So the takeaway here for you as a founder is you want to make sure that your experience overlaps with the type of content that your ICP cares about. And if for whatever reason it doesn't, you want to have someone on your team where that is the case, and you can use them as the face of your product on LinkedIn. But in most cases, your experience before launching your company likely led you to starting your company. So there's going to be some sort of overlap between your expertise and what your target audience cares about. That second pillar is building in public. So let me explain a bit. Because the thing about building in public is it's not for everybody. It's not for every founder, not for every company. Even if you do have the commitment and courage to share everything about your company in public, like metrics and what's going well, what's going wrong, it's still not for everybody. There's a very unique subset of companies where this works well. Remember a minute ago where I said Adam's content was tailored around topics that were interesting to SaaS founders? A lot of those posts and topics that really popped off were these building in public style of posts where Adam literally shares every single metric he could think of straight to the LinkedIn timeline. So naturally, this attracts other SaaS founders who care about seeing what other companies are doing. They want to see if their metrics stack up, how they're doing compared to other people in their category. So building in public really works well when the company you're building is also the same type of company that you want to attract. So if you're building a SaaS company in public and you want to attract other SaaS founders, that can work. But just like we talked about a second ago, if you're trying to attract direct-to-consumer founders, but you're building this SaaS company, they don't really care a whole lot about your churn metrics and your ARR growth and all of that stuff. Another example of this would be the SaaS tool that I just launched about a month ago, Bluecast. It's a LinkedIn content writing tool, and of course, I have an expertise in creating LinkedIn content and using LinkedIn content to grow SaaS companies. So by sharing how I'm using LinkedIn to grow Bluecast, it is inherently good marketing for Bluecast. It's going to attract other people that want to grow on LinkedIn. So it creates this sort of virtuous cycle, and there's very clear alignment there. Again, content market fit. You've also got to be careful and take into consideration how you want to approach the times when business isn't going so well. Because when you build in public, everything doesn't always go up and to the right. I wish that was the case, but it very much is not the case. Internally, a lot of businesses are an absolute mess. So how are you going to approach that if you have a down month or a down quarter or a down year? Things don't go according to plan and you kind of get away from the initial momentum that got you all this hype from building in public. I think Adam does this really well. He shared several times where retention.com has had a down month, or our B2B is dealing with a lot of churn. That's something he's talking about very publicly lately. And it doesn't seem to affect the effectiveness of the strategy, but it is something that you have to consider as your preference as a founder. It's like, hey, do I want to be sharing all this dirty laundry on the timeline? There's pros and cons, right? There's two other places where building in public can really help your business as well. One of those aspects is investors. Now, Adam's not raising VC. He's been very vocal about being bootstrapped. But for other companies you are trying to raise venture capital, building in public and documenting your journey can be a great way to manufacture this positive momentum. A quick example of this would be this company called Beehive. They were able to raise a $12.5 million Series A round in just 6 days because the founder, Tyler, had been documenting their metrics in public. And it was clear that they had a lot of momentum. They had a strong product, a good team, a lot of buzz around them, no pun intended. And the VCs came flocking in when it was time to raise. Now, if you're looking to hire A players, building in public can also be great for this. If you're sharing your core values, your company culture, examples of teammates you have hired and have done well at your company, you're going to sort of create this magnet for talent, which if you're a founder, you know that attracting A+ talent is one of the most important, if not the most important thing that you can be focused on. And just like with investors, if employees or potential employees see your company doing very well and that you're on a trajectory for fast growth, they're going to want to be a part of that. You know, it's crazy. I actually helped Adam launch his LinkedIn presence a while back. So when he first started posting on LinkedIn, I helped him get it off the ground from about 0 to 25K. And I've done the same for a ton of other founders, and I document all those playbooks in my newsletter that I send out every single week. So shameless plug, but if you want to get those blueprints and playbooks for how to build your personal brand on LinkedIn, you can just go read all of those editions on the site. They're all there. The link will be in the description below, so go check that out if you want to use LinkedIn to build your personal brand and use it to grow your startup. Now, this third pillar is pretty controversial, but I'd be doing a disservice to Adam and you guys if I left it out of the video. And that's how Adam uses polarization as a tactic to grow his personal brand and get more visibility for his products. Now, it's extremely obvious how this could go wrong, and being polarizing for the sake of being polarizing is not a strategy that I would recommend. It's not going to serve you. You got to be calculated with it. And even if you are calculated with it, it can still have downsides. So one case of this would be his LinkedIn beef with this guy named Mark Cosaglau, where they're going back and forth about the benefits of VC versus bootstrapping, and it got very heated or very intense. You can see in this LinkedIn post I've got up on the screen right now, just look at the hook. Last week, Mark Cosaglau belittled me for having not reached 25 million in ARR, bootstrapped as founder CEO, stating that he added $25 million per quarter at Outreach, 500 million raised as VP of sales. Here's 4 reasons why Mark should start a SaaS from zero before running his mouth. Quite a bold hook, and it got a ton of attention. So if we look at this, also just look at the graphic here, kind of feeding into this polarization. That hook alone is a lot. Looking at the graphic here of the money on fire, this sort of joke, I grew Outreach to 60,000 billion in ARR. And the post is at like 700 likes, over 400 comments, a lot of which are people like this saying like, it's pretty funny. You got some people asking for LinkedIn boxing matches, which by the way, if anyone needs a content idea, there you go. You got some people that think it's a bit overkill. Has LinkedIn really become the Wimbledon for ego tennis matches? Oh boy. But honestly, if you look at the comments, a lot of people are thoroughly entertained by it. It got a ton of engagement. And most people can tell that like there's no actual bad blood. So really to each their own. But it didn't stop there. So as a sort of nail in the coffin on this beef with Mark, Adam dropped this AI generated diss track. So think Kendrick versus Drake diss track, like a diss track on LinkedIn, which is just hilarious. So again, LinkedIn is this sterile corporate environment. You have someone like Adam who's not afraid to just let it rip like this. Of course, that's going to stand out. Again, almost 400 likes, over 150 comments, 10 reposts. Pretty strong for a LinkedIn post. Another example of this sort of polarization in action was the 6th Sense beef. So this company called 6th Sense actually threatened to sue Adam over some of the claims that he was making in his LinkedIn content. And instead of keeping it hush-hush and keeping the cease and desist letter under wraps, not wanting anyone to see, Adam literally screenshotted the cease and desist and posted it to the LinkedIn timeline. Again, as we see in this hook, yesterday 6th Sense started to sue me over a viral LinkedIn post. Here's a copy of their cease and desist and what they're demanding I do. And the post isn't even like apologetic or, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done this. He continues to double down. So as my theories are and remain, they know their data is terrible. 6th Sense is worried about what we'll find when we compare their data to ours. So he just keeps going. And Adam gets marketing. He knows that having a villain is a great way to get people to rally to your side. And a lot of people on LinkedIn actually are the biggest biggest fans of 6th Sense, and he's very much punching up. You never want to punch down. So if 6th Sense was a smaller company, this probably wouldn't be a great look for Adam, but since 6th Sense is such a large company, punching up as this bootstrap competitor, the underdog, actually gets a lot of people on Adam's side. And just look at the engagement. So almost 1,700 likes, almost 1,000 comments, which is insane on a LinkedIn post. So clearly, controversy does work. And this was around the time where RB2B was going from 0 to $1 million in ARR, and they actually went from 0 to $1 million in ARR in just a few weeks. And a lot of that growth was fueled by that beef. Now, like Adam said here, it's very clear that social media and algorithms love this type of content, but there is a toll, right? You run the risk of ruining your reputation if you do this too often, or if you do it and mistime it, or it doesn't quite make sense. You have to be very selective about when you engage in a tactic like this if you choose to do so. Like I mentioned earlier, posting and this sort of negativity is not great for your mental health as a founder. So it does take a toll on you personally. And as Adam says here, when I'm posting, I'm living in a world of negativity that I do not thrive in. So in Adam's case, there was a lot of financial upside in engaging in this strategy. And I think it is something that smart founders will do selectively when it makes sense, but you also want to be sure to weigh the pros and the cons. And this fourth and final pillar might be something that goes in one ear and out the other. Please don't let your eyes glaze over when I tell you this, because it's one of the most important, arguably the most important part of this entire strategy and any marketing strategy in general. And that's to fall in love with the game. You see, it's hard to do something you don't like for a very long time, or something you tell yourself you don't like. I know a lot of founders are like, I don't like posting on LinkedIn, but they've never actually tried it. You don't realize your subconscious mind is very impactful here. But my point is, if you don't like posting at all, or if you don't like writing, you're not going to do it consistently. And it's going to be difficult to grow. And I'll tell you right now, even as someone who runs an agency, if you go into founder-led content immediately wanting to outsource and get it off your plate and not touch it at all and work with an agency or a ghostwriter, it's not going to end well for you, because even when you do that, you still need to be involved with ideation and giving feedback and all those things that go into making a founder-led content presence work. Now, if you look at Adam, he's on the record saying he spends 25 hours a week on his LinkedIn content. Not 1 hour a week, not 5 hours a week, 25 hours per week. And that was probably a few months ago when he said that, which for most founders is unheard of. It sounds like a distraction. Like, why don't I just spend my time actually building my company? But what Adam realizes is that time spent on LinkedIn content is building his company. For a founder like Adam, whose company is built off the back of his LinkedIn content, it makes sense for him to put those hours into the content to make it perform well. And again, he just likes filming videos and writing content, so it makes sense for him. It's a win-win. And this might be a controversial take, but I don't think you can discipline yourself into being very good at content. Even using myself as an example, I've been posting for 7 or 8 years now, and I love writing content. I will sit down every day, and if I could do nothing else, I would sit down here and record these videos, write my newsletters, write my LinkedIn posts, just because I like it. I happen to get paid for it, but I also just love the game. Adam is similar in that way, and so are a lot of the founders that win with content. If I look across our client roster, our best clients are the ones that love creating content, but realize they don't have the time to fulfill on it all themselves, so they bring in support. Every time we have to pull teeth to get a founder to sit down for a content interview or to review their post, it never works. Adam is a clear example of the massive outsized success you could have when you just dedicate some time and effort to building your personal brand on LinkedIn. And that is how Adam from retention.com and RB2B built his companies to $24 million in annual recurring revenue using LinkedIn as the driver. Now, to be honest, this video is a bit more high level. And while there's nothing stopping you from going and implementing these strategies that Adam has used, I also made a video where I show the full strategy I use on LinkedIn from start to finish, everything you could possibly need. So click here and check out the next video where I'll walk you through exactly how to execute a strategy like this and go even more in depth on the winning LinkedIn tactics that brands and entrepreneurs just like you are using to win. So you can just copy and paste those for yourself. I'll see you over there.